Okay, well, welcome subcommittee members and members of the public to this March 22nd, 2023. Hold that thought for a second while I shut my door. I'm not used to being in the office for these things now. March 22nd, 2023, Governor's Workforce Development Board Strategic Planning Subcommittee meeting. For the record, my name is Nancy Olson, Chair of the Strategic Planning Subcommittee. Katie, will you please take roll call?
Thank you, Ms. Chair. Katie Gilbertson with Goen for the record. So we have Chair Olson.
Here.
We have Assemblywoman Monroe Monredo. She might be in session, along with Senator Lang. Okay, we have Councilman Black, Sherry Mantanona, Ed Estepona.
Here.
We have Tommy White. We have David Schmidt.
Here.
Okay. Milt Stewart. Okay. We have Ariana Florence.
She is actually here, but she's manning the other meeting.
Present. Yeah, sorry.
That's good, thank you. Daniel McCatton. Okay. Michael Yoder. Robert Fink. Brett Miller.
Here.
Okay. Michael Bolognini.
I see him.
Yeah. Mr. Bolognini, can you mark yourself present? Might be having mic issues. And then our final one is Gina Bon Jovi. And Ms. Chair, Ms. Bon Jovi informed me prior to the meeting that she'd be absent.
Okay, thank you. So we do not yet have a quorum. Can you verify posting?
Yes. I hereby affirm that this March 22nd, 2023 Governor's Workforce Development Board meeting agenda was properly posted pursuant to Nevada's open meeting law, NRS 241-020.
Thank you. Before we proceed, the chair kindly requests that anyone who speaks today identify themselves for the record. Continuing on to agenda item number 4, public comments. Members of the public are invited to provide comments at this time. No action may be taken on any matters during public comments until the matter itself has been included on an agenda as an item for possible action. Do we have any public comments on the telephone? Do we have any public comments on Zoom? Okay, thank you. All right. We are going to skip agenda item number 5 at this moment, hoping that perhaps we have a quorum before the end of the meeting. So I will move on to item number 6. For discussion, informational only, welcome and introduction for new participants or those who did not join us at the December 2022 meeting. So if you would introduce yourselves, let us know, who you're representing. If you were not at the December 2022 meeting of the Strategic Planning Subcommittee.
Hey, Nancy, it's Parvana from Nevada Works. Hi, there's a bunch of people sitting in a Microsoft Teams meeting. I don't think that they realize they're supposed to come over to the Zoom.
Yeah, Parvin, I'm watching it and I'm continuously sending out the link through it.
I think if you can make a verbal announcement, because I just happened to see it in the chat. I opened the chat up. I don't think everybody else that's sitting there is realizing that that's an option.
Yeah, Michael Bolladini, he had already been
Bolladini.
informed, yeah, by Janice. So sorry, I botched her last name.
No problem.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
I do see Mike Yoder still there.
He just joined. Yeah, I'm informing him.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So apparently we do not have anyone that did not attend in December. Okay. We do have, in addition to the members of the subcommittee, we have several people with us today that have volunteered or been voluntold to be on a work group for the strategic planning subcommittee. So if you are attending for the first time as a work group member and you'd like to introduce yourself, please do so now. Okay, either we don't have anyone new or everybody's just being very shy today. So I will, and this may be the shortest meeting in history. I will go on to agenda item number 7 for discussion, informational only, a report and an update from the strategic planning work group. I'm going to kind of open that up, and then I will ask other work group members to add, their thoughts, their feedback on the work group. So the work group is tasked with working on the direction that the state plan will go to meet the federal requirements, but also to move it from a compliance document to a true strategic plan. It involves revising like close to over 100 pages easily, and actually probably closer to 150 of the state plan. And what we are looking at doing is taking each section of the state plan and looking at what are the requirements federally for the state plan, and then what are the previous responses, and how can we take those previous responses, which really focused on individual titles, and the responses were very separated out by title. So we are looking at in many of the sections, how can we take that and make it a more comprehensive response to the prompts from the federal Department of Labor and U.S. Department of Education, to make it more comprehensive, to make it more of a true strategic plan, starting with the activities that fall under all the titles and the law, and then the responsibilities that go within that. Then we also are looking at the ability to take responses from various sections and be able to pull out a 2 to 3 page document that gives us a true living working document. So the idea that we wanted to present to this group was, does that seem like the reasonable approach to meet the requirements for the state plan We also have a fairly tight timeline every time. And we are looking at needing to have a draft of the state plan go to the full board by October or November at the latest, for the final submission to the U.S. Department of Labor and U.S. Department of Education, typically by about March 1st. We will not know the exact date until it is published federally. So the idea with the work group is that we are really pulling together the people that are on the front lines, the people that see the population coming in day after day, and really pulling that together as far as I don't want to say doing the grunt work, but it kind of is really digging in and doing that work. This group has agreed to meet every other week for approximately an hour and a half. As we get a little bit further down the road, a little bit closer to the deadline, that may actually increase. So it is a huge commitment. And I want to take this opportunity of thanking everyone that has agreed to be on that work group. The work group is also not making decisions as much as we are putting together something then to present to the subcommittee and the full board. So the work group is not a meeting that is subject to open meeting laws, because we are not a decision-making body. Okay. Other people from the work group that would like to add to what I've said, or maybe, explain a little bit more as far as the vision behind the work group?
David Schmidt, for the record, I would just say I don't know that I have much to add. I think you did a pretty good job summarize what we're doing and working on there, and I think so I'll go back on that. I think maybe the one thing to add or clarify is I think the goal is there will still be space for all of the titles in the strategic plan to have places to say, here are the things that we're doing. It's I think the largest changes as you go through the Department of Labor requirements are focused on the overall strategic vision of the workforce system and really condensing that piece of it, so that there is both that unified strategy as well as sort of the unique operational elements within the system, which I think makes sense in light of what the Department of Labor guidance for the state plan is, and may, if we're lucky, even result in reducing some of the redundant work for the individual titles and saying the same thing over and over again, however much the Department of Labor may like us doing that.
Yeah, Nancy Olson for the record, and yeah, thank you, David, for that. One thing I didn't point out is that the portion of the state plan that we will be looking at as a work group is only the joint portion of the state plan. There remains individual title portions, and there very well could be sections within the joint portion that still need some individual response from the titles. So it's not like we are going to automatically look at putting that all together if it makes more sense to leave it title by title in some sections. Just that right now, almost every section of the joint portion of the state plan, the responses are strictly separated out by title. Anyone else want to add to the report and update on the work group? Yes, Edward.
Edward Estepona for the record. I just want to thank this work group. I mean, I know this job is not an easy job. It's really hard, especially when you're thinking about the compliance side of the labor department and what their rests and wants are. They love redundancy. Unfortunately, it is whatever it is. You give them what they want so that they can get off your back. I know I'm on the business sector and it's all about efficiency and trying to get things done. So I know what you guys are doing. I am excited when we get to the part of what I'll call this the Cliff Notes version plan, which is the plan that's actually the plan that we can actually enact and actually do something about, that it's not worried about crossing T's and dotting I's for the labor department. Because I think that's the plan that ultimately is going to move the ball forward with workforce development. But I do thank every single one of you that's on this work group, because your eyes are going to be bloodshot by the time you're probably done. So I just can't do enough but thank you guys for the hard work you're putting in.
Thank you. Nancy Olson for the record. And I will point out that the 2 to 3 page documents we talked about came from Ken Evans, and a meeting that he went to where other states were doing similar things. And Ken, I don't know if you want to add to that either.
No, I'm good. In the interest of meeting efficiency, I'm good. You've captured it well, and so did Ed. Yeah, enough said.
Thank you, thank you. Okay, the strategic planning work group has met. We had the initial meeting just to kind of talk about the task. We had a second meeting where we started kind of looking at that first section, and that's where a lot of the kind of looking at, well, can we approach it this way, or does it make sense to approach it this way? And that made it pretty clear. And actually, I have to thank, I think it was Janice Klein that mentioned that maybe we should speak with Hugh Anderson, the chair, and Ken Evans, the vice chair of the workforce board, so that we were not too far down the road before making sure that we were kind of all on the same page. So we did that last week. Was that just last week, Ken? And kind of got their thumbs up on the direction that we're going. We had wanted to get this group's thumbs up officially, but without a quorum, we cannot do that. So I think that probably the best thing is that
Chair Olson.
yes.
Okay, forgive me for interrupting, but I wanted to ask in procedural, and I'm not sure if we have a deputy attorney general or DAG with us, but the question I wanted to ask is, some of the other groups that I'm a part of, when we're unable to conduct the business at the formal meeting, we use electronic communication or email string communication. I just want to ask, is that permissible, just so we can keep moving?
Nancy Olson for the record. I will have to defer to Katie, who may have to check with the DAG, but I would certainly be open to doing that if it is allowable. And if the other subcommittees or the executive committee has had a similar process, then there's no reason to think that we can't do the same.
Hi, Katie Gilbertson for the record. I believe that they can do that. It's an email quorum. So we can send out an email to do that. I'll double check with our DAG. He's not able to make it today, but we should be able to do that.
Brett Miller for the record. I don't believe that's allowable because that's not open to the public. So, and they call that a rolling quorum. And I believe from the training I've had from this from the state on ethics and open meeting law, that is definitely not acceptable. But I check with the DAG.
That's the reason why I couched it and framed it the way that I did.
Okay.
Well-
Yeah, Nancy Olson for the record, and we'll obviously we will adhere to whatever the DAG says.
And I'm sorry, pardon me, Chair Olson, Ken Evans for the record. I just want to make sure that when they go back, they'll know that I'm the person that brought all that up. But also suggested that we consult the DAG for the record. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. We will not delay, this will not delay the work of the work group, put it that way. Okay. Are there any questions at this time from any members of the group or the work group regarding the report and update from the strategic planning work group? Yes, Edward.
Edward Estepona for record. If by chance we cannot do a quick vote for a quorum, I have no problem, and I've done this in other committee, state committees that I've been involved with, that we can have a quick 15-minute meeting just to go over if, for approval purposes, all these other things, because I do not want to hold you guys up. I assume things will get done. Like I said, a lot of this stuff is really, at least from my end, is beyond my scope of knowledge because it's Department of Labor. So I will defer to the work group in making sure that we're on the right track for that. And then when we come back to do some of the other things, I think at that point, that's where I feel like, at least for me, I can contribute the most. But if we have to have another 15-20-minute meeting just to make approvals, I am not opposed to that either, as long as it's posted, obviously, in a timely manner, the way that the state requires it.
Thank you. Nancy Olson for the record. I would also like, Katie, if you would also check with the DAG on, can the chair of the subcommittee, if that is necessary, can the chair of the subcommittee request an unofficial vice chair to run a meeting for that purpose? I'm asking that because I am going to be out for at least 2 weeks, probably 2.5, starting April 4th. And I don't want to hold things up.
Yeah, Katie Gilbertson for the record. I can either check if we can do that, or we can see if we could have it next week before,
Okay,
so I will follow up with our DAG.
okay. Nancy Olson for the record. Yeah, having it next week might be a problem with the posting in time. So, okay. All right, unless there are any other questions or comments from the work group, questions from any committee members, I will go on to the next agenda item. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 8 for discussion informational only. A report from meeting with the Governor's Workforce Development Board Leadership Chair Hugh Anderson and Vice Chair Ken Evans, and we pretty much, I'm sorry, but I pretty much like combined that with what I was saying a few minutes ago. So just, you know, adding to that, I think that the focus that I got from both Ken and Hugh was that they think it's very, very important to have the living strategic planning piece of the state plan that that we can actually show progress with the implementation of the state plan. The compliance piece is a necessity, but previously the compliance has led to turning it in, getting it approved, and then putting it on a shelf until the next time it's revised. And there's not been the accountability as far as the goals and strategies that fall within the plan. There's not been anyone that has been looking at, are these strategies being implemented? Are these goals being met? Now, that's not to say that we don't all have goals that are being met, because we do have federal performance measures that are very carefully tracked and reported. So not to downplay those federal performance measures at all. But at the same time, if we are going to have a strategic plan, we have to have the measurables and the accountability for implementation that goes along with that. And I see Ken is not on screen. I don't know if he's had to step away, but I would be happy to have him add to that if he chooses. Okay, I believe he must have had to step away. Okay, are there any additional questions at this time? Yes, Brett.
So in those discussions, has there been any guidance from the governor's office on what that vision may look like, or any changes other than what we've seen in proposed legislation?
Nancy Olson, for the record, I think what I will do with that is, well, one of the things that we talked with David Schmidt about was getting some bullet points for updates in the economic outlook, so that we could then, as a work group, make sure that what we're working on aligns with that. I've not seen anything from the governor's office yet, but I would also defer to Ken or anyone else on the call that could add to that. I know that Troy, not to put you on the spot, but I know that you have already been in front of the legislature, and from my understanding, you know, that Dieter has been meeting closely with the governor's office. So if there's anything that anyone can add to that as far as the vision from the governor, you know, I would be happy to have you speak to that.
Unfortunately, we are sworn to secrecy. Oh, I'm on mute.
No,
Am I
you're
on
good.
mute?
You're good.
Troy Jordan, for the record, Deputy Director of Dieter. We have been told we cannot discuss the contents, and I will be bluntly honest with you, we don't know the full contents of the bill. We've had a to give you where we were at with it is a draft was sent over, some red lines were done, whether they accepted all, none, or some of them, just on that section. And there were other sections of the bill that did not concern Dieter at that time. I don't know if that was because they sent them all out at one time or if the bill is going to be that large. But we are sworn to secrecy until the bill drops. It is my understanding that the bill is at the bill drafters. And it was originally due on the 27th, which would have been next Monday for all bill drafts. But the legislature on Monday extended their bill draft deadline, which may necessarily extend that bill deadline, depending on if it's tied to that deadline or not. I haven't looked that up yet, but I expect it to drop in the next 7 to 10 days. The other thing is, remember, the governor also has emergency bills. If necessary, he can call it an emergency bill and then get it beyond the deadline. But I know that the bill is at the drafter. That's all I can say about that, especially in a public meeting setting. So no problem putting me on the spot. I'm happy to help if I could. I would have gone paragraph by paragraph of what I've seen, but we have been absolutely sworn to secrecy until it drops, because I think the main thing with the governor's office is if they change something that we're not aware of, they don't want us saying something in there that's not, or vice versa.
Mhm.
And until the actual text comes out, I will tell you that we have not seen the final version of the bill at Dieter and likely will not till it drops. But I can tell you I've seen at least 2 different drafts of it. That's all I can say.
Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, I wasn't even, I don't know what I was thinking. I wasn't even tying it to a bill when I said that, but of course it would be. So we'll see. It's kind of a wait and see. Yes, David.
David Schmidt for the record. I was just gonna add or clarify that the bullet points that the chair referred to are essentially kind of a summary. There is a portion of the state plan that's based on labor market and economic data that the plan is, at least in theory, supposed to be kind of responding to. And in the past, the way that the plan was assembled, it was all sort of pulled together at once. And so there wasn't that opportunity to kind of lay out what is the best understanding of the labor market economic situation of the state, and then have a plan to address that. So while I didn't commit to writing that entire piece up front, a lot of the data is available now, and parts that aren't available now, you could go with what we have, and then if it's updated, it'll probably be updated from this point. It's not like it will be a brand new received from the sky kind of thing. And so I think we can kind of outline a lot of the current circumstances and conditions to have a starting point then for the strategic elements of the plan to be responding to the labor market and economic data that will ultimately be incorporated in the state plan. So it's not necessarily in any way a replacement for whatever strategic aims the governor's office might have, but it is that part of the plan that says, where are we now, so that we within the plan can say, what do we want to do, what do we want to achieve, if that adds any clarity.
Nancy Olson for the record. I think it does. Thank you, David. Thank you. And I wanted to give Vice Chair Ken Evans, Vice Chair of the full Governor's Workforce Development Board, that is, the opportunity to put his, give his feedback to the meeting that we had with Chair Hugh Anderson and Vice Chair Ken Evans last week.
Yep. Thank you very much, Chair Olson. Ken Evans for the record, Vice Chair for the overall Governor's Workforce Development Board. Very succinctly put, Chair Anderson and I sat in on a meeting. Chair Olson outlined the direction that the committee is going in. I too echo what board member Estepona, I hope I got that correctly, mentioned. And that's the fact that, first of all, thank you to all of you for doing this, because going through 100+ page document is not going to be fun, but unfortunately, we've got to adhere to the compliance part in order to get to the strategic part that we really want to do. But having said that, yeah, we definitely agree with the direction that things are moving in. In fact, the action item that I have, and I'm communicating with Katie on that, is for those not aware, there's the National Governors Association, or NGA. That's the conference that Chair Olson was referring to that I went to. They gave us some great lessons learned. There are several other states across the country that are producing or have already produced a 2 to 3 page strategic document that they use as a playbook. So the bottom line is you're moving in the right direction. We're, on behalf of Chair Anderson and myself, we're very comfortable with it, and we'll do what we can to support you, for example, by getting examples of what other states have done so that we can appropriately apply it and tailor it to the state of Nevada and move forward. So thanks again.
Nancy, also for the record, thank you. And, you know, in my work, borrowing from other states is very common. So we are always open to that. Any other questions or comments? Okay, and I will ask, again, Nancy Olson for the record, I will ask Katie. I believe we've not had any subcommittee members join since taking roll. So we do not have a quorum. So agenda item 9.
Pardon me, Chair Olson. Yes. Just so that Chair Anderson and I can help assist with subcommittee member and overall member participation and engagement. Ms. Gilbertson, how many people are on the subcommittee, and how many people do we need for a quorum as a regular routine?
Yeah, Katie Gilbertson for the record. So there's 17 on the subcommittee. So that means we need 9 for a simple majority. We have 8.
Okay. And if I understand correctly, all the subcommittee members are actually members of the Governor's Workforce Development Board as well. Is that correct?
No.
Ken Evans for the record.
No, Katie Gilbertson for the record. About half are actually.
Okay, that's the reason why I'm asking this, is because to the extent that we can encourage our colleagues that are actually part of the formal board, we will. And maybe what I'm making a mental note here, to the extent we can also encourage those that are non-members, perhaps that's a subject that we can take up at the executive committee level between myself, Chair Anderson. Again, and our intent is not to be punitive or negative, but out of respect for the individuals that are here, we just want to make sure we support you in that manner if we need to. So thank you.
Nancy, also for the record, thank you very much for that. And I do recognize that for some of the subcommittee members, the legislative session is certainly taking priority, as it should. So, okay. Okay, so with that, we will work on putting together a very brief meeting for just the purpose of passing item number 5, and which is the minutes from the last meeting, and item number 9, which is the approval of the subcommittee regarding the discussion on the work group process and organizational structure of the state plan document.
And Chair Olson.
Yes.
Pardon me, Ken Evans for the record real quick. And if it's helpful and we can do it, we may want to communicate with the attaches of the individuals that are in the legislature, because maybe we can find the time, especially if they know it's going to be a real quick 10 or 15-minute meeting. Maybe their attaches can help us in that manner. Again, hopefully that's helpful. Thank you.
Nancy Olson, thank you. Yes, very much. Okay. So moving on to agenda item number 8, members of the public are invited for final comments. Are there any final comments on the telephone? Any final comments on Zoom? Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of latitude here for the chair. So Nancy Olson for the record. The work group that was scheduled to meet on April, and now I'm going to have to go back to my calendar. So it's 2 weeks from today. Yeah, April 5th. We are going to cancel that work group session, but the one on April 19th will take place. However, I do not believe that I will be able to be there because I will be out not having fun, but having surgery. So.
Chair Olson,
Yes.
let me ask procedurally, do you have a either a formal or informal vice chair or just someone that could, for example, forgive me for pointing him out, but like an individual like, and he's smiling, he knows where I'm about to go, but like board member Estepanonia, someone that could just basically facilitate the meeting. And again, we need to consult the DAG to make sure that we're in compliance and doing what we're supposed to do.
Nancy Olson for the record. So for the formal subcommittee, no, I've not had a vice chair. I would certainly be happy to have a vice chair. And for the subcommittee to meet to do the 2 items that were on the agenda that were unable to be voted on today, we would need a member of the subcommittee. For the work group itself, then because that is not a formal meeting and is not subject to open meeting laws, we do not have to have a member of the subcommittee for that to proceed in my absence. So, but I would be happy if anyone wants to volunteer to be vice chair for the subcommittee.
Edward, that's on record. I'll do it.
Thank you. That was not on the agenda, but I don't think it's going to hurt for it. Do we have to have that on the agenda to make it official?
This is Ken Evans for the record. I think what we can do is, we discussed it, but again, I preface it by saying, let's consult the DAG, but it is helpful to know that the interest and the agreement is there.
Yeah.
Ken Evans for the record.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. So we will include that in the questions to the DAG, and if we need to, we can include that in one of the voting pieces for the emergency meeting. Okay.
And Ken Evans for the record, forgive me if I'm hijacking the meeting, but it's also helping us with the overall effort. Ms. Gilbertson, if you'll make a note that perhaps we need to do something similar for the other subcommittees as well. Thank you. Thank you, Chair Olson, for your indulgence, as well as the rest of the committee.
No problem on my end. Thank you very much, Nancy Olson for the record. And with that, I will move to adjourn this meeting. So less than half the time.
Yep. Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair
Thank
Olson.
you.
Thank you all very much.